When you use any CPA marketing platform, it should give you some kind of tracking facility. This will give you the ability to see data and statistics for your adverts so that you can see how well they're performing. When you're paying per click, this is particularly important so you can ensure that you're getting a good amount of ROI for your ads. On Google and Facebook, you'll be able to see your actual CPA, whereas in other platforms you might need to set this amount yourself. Other things you'll be able to see with most of these tools include how often your ad has been viewed, and this is called impressions, and this will likely be somewhat correlated with how much you're paying per acquisition. The more advanced platforms also might let you see aggregated data. In Facebook, for instance, you can find this by clicking on Advanced Data. From here you can see the age, sex, location and more of your viewers. Also available in Facebook is something called frequency, and this basically tells you how often the same people are seeing your ad. This is an important one to keep an eye on because, of course, if the same people keep seeing your ads, they're eventually likely to have either bought your item already or they're completely uninterested in doing so. On the other hand, this might not matter so much if what you're selling is something you can sell multiple times, like a chocolate snack, for example. Other figures include CTR, which is your click-through rate, and this tells you how often people are actually clicking on your ads. So if you have a lot of impressions but you don't have many clicks, your click-through rate will be low. If nearly everyone clicks on your ads who sees them, then your CTR will be high. CTR is a particularly important stat because it is one that most closely correlates with the effectiveness of your ad. In other words, is your advert compelling enough to attract attention and then get someone to want to click? If not, ask yourself what you could do to change it. CPM, meanwhile, is cost per impression, and this tells you how much you're paying for your advert to show. Some advertising networks can actually charge per impression, but more likely this figure will be worked out based on your CPP, CTR and impressions. As mentioned earlier, you should also be able to see a ROAS, which is return on ad spend. If you're using a strictly CPA platform or setup where you pay only for actions, then you'll ideally want to increase your impressions, your CTR and your ROAS. However, if you're paying per click, then the ideal scenario would be for your CTR to go down and your ROAS to stay the same or go up. In other words, when you're paying per click, you want to drive away clicks that aren't going to convert. You want to discriminate when bringing visitors to your site because not all of them are going to be worth any money to you. If you can decrease your CTR while keeping your ROAS the same, then that will mean that you're actually targeting your visitors more accurately, and this will cause your CPA to go down, which is a good thing because it means you're paying less per sale. I know this all sounds a bit confusing, but as long as your ROAS is going up, you can be sure you're generally improving. And if you're paying on a purely CPA basis, then as long as your clicks are going up, your ad will be performing well. You should also be able to look at your historical data for your adverts and see whether your CTR and ROAS are going up or down. At the same time, you can then correlate this with changes you might have made to your campaign, such as your bidding strategy or perhaps the ad text. Either way, this will have a direct or indirect effect on how many people are clicking on your ads, and in turn you can use this data to run tests. The idea is that you eventually evolve the adverts to perform optimally, thereby maximizing your clicks and your profits. Some sites will also allow you to run split tests. A split test basically means that you run two different versions of an advert at the same time. For example, you might have two versions of your heading text or the ad body text, and you can then see which one of these performs best. By doing that, you can make sure that every change you make is a positive change that will increase your clicks, impressions and conversions. Just make sure that you run your split tests for long enough to collect the right amount of data. If you draw premature conclusions based on just a few clicks, then you won't be able to ensure that it was the difference in the ad that was having the effect. It could just have been a coincidence. In the next video, we'll talk about creating your ad.